But we've all been waiting for it. The fixtures are out. Let's take a look at them. Hi everyone, welcome back to Evermore YouTube channel. It's Chris back with my rant stroke thought of the day. There's only one game in town right now. The Premier League fixtures are out. We know who Newcastle United are going to be playing next season and when. We're going to have a quick look through these now, see what I think about it, let you know my opinions on them, and also how it will clash with possibly the Champions League as well. Maybe touch a little bit upon the squad as well and transfers. Sorry, I'm going to talk about it once again. We'll get stuck right. Before I do, if you haven't already, smash subscribe, keep it ever more, guys. Help get us to our next milestone. We're close to that 11,000. You guys can help get us there. Click that button. It's all free content. Why not have a dabble? So let's get stuck in now. It's a tough start for Newcastle United, absolutely. I'm just looking at the fixtures here on the old dog and bone in the lovely black font and white tiny writing that Newcastle United have put on. I think I might need magnifying glasses as well and actual glasses. But the first game of the season, we're away at Villa Park on the 16th of August. I think it's a 12:30 kickoff from what I'm seeing now. Not a great start, I suppose. We're away from home. It's a tough one. Aston Villa are a really good team, one of our Champions League rivals. But, from a positive point of view, Newcastle can go to that game, I suppose with, I wouldn't say nothing to lose, but then go into that game and really put down a marker and let them know let Aston Villa and the rest of the Premier League know what we're all about. It's a good chance to beat a rival early on in the season, and you can get these teams out of the way in the first kind of month of the season. It puts you in a better position towards the back end of the season, in my opinion. And certainly looking at Newcastle United last season, we can always get a little bit too wound up about the first half of the season. If you finish strong, you end up finishing in a strong position pretty much. But Aston Villa away, tough game. Let us know in the comments below what you guys think about that one. The next game, fuck me, you couldn't have asked for a better one, could you? The first home game of the season, it's the champions coming to St James's Park. It's Liverpool at home on the 23rd of August. Now, many of you might be screaming at the camera right now and going, oh my God, you're joking, aren't you? But hear me out a second. If Newcastle United are going to have to play Liverpool in the first 5 or 6 games of the season, I would much rather it was at St James's Park and not at Anfield. We've got a chance against them at St James's Park. We played excellently against them last season, drew 3s each. We've had really close games with them where we've really showed up, stepped up, and played well and hung with Liverpool and probably should have beat them. That 3-3 game, if the referee's watch had been working, we'd have won that game and rightly so deserved to have done it as well. So I'm not massively frightened at Liverpool coming to St James's Park in the second game of the season, because it's the first home game as well. The fans will be massively up for it. The war flag displays, the atmosphere, because the first game would have been away from home. This is the first chance to get home and show the lads the support that we want to give them as well at St James's Park, the only way we can. So I think Newcastle will show up for that game, and I'm not massively worried about it. Be a tough game as well, no doubt about it. Points wise, I suppose you may be looking at a draw to start with, really positively, but could you get 3? Yes, you could if you show up and do the business, but we might need some more players for that, guys. The third game, one I'm really looking forward to, Leeds United away. I really like Leeds as a football club. I think they're one of the biggest clubs in England. I think they're part of football heritage, football legacy, in my opinion. They've suffered long enough in the Championship. The Premier League's better for having them there. There's no doubt about it. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what Leeds do in the Premier League. So away to Leeds at Ellen Road on the 30th of August is how we finished that first month. That's a good fixture. I think Leeds United fans will be buzzing to have Newcastle coming into town, and we should be looking to win that game, really. It depends on what Leeds do in the market. It depends what we do in the market, I suppose, but we've had a good record against Leeds over the years, but it's always a good game. I like Leeds as a fan base as well. I think they're a really good fan base, very similar to us, so I think that'll be an excellent game of football. Going into September, Wolves at home. That's probably the first one I look at out of those 4 fixtures and think that, rightly or wrongly, that could be a good one for us. I mean, Wolves have just lost Cunha. They've lost Art Nuri as well, 2 of their best players. Will they replace them? I don't know. Wolves could be in for a tricky season next season. Wolves fans will be thinking the same thing. So Wolves at Newcastle United at St James's Park, I've got a good feeling about that one. So I feel a bit stronger about that one. Eddie Howe's Kryptonite is up next, which is Bournemouth away on the 20th of September. I hate that game. Eddie Howe hates that game. I'm not looking forward to that one at all, to be fair. But it depends on who Bournemouth have still got in their squad. They might get picked clean in this transfer market. With some of the players like Semenyo and Cliver and people like that might go missing. They've already lost Dean Howson. They could lose Zabriani, the centre half. So they could be a little bit thin on their squad as well. And then we finish September. It's Mikel Arteta, the bedwetter, comes to St James's Park on the 27th of September. Again, it's at home. I fancy our chances against Arsenal. We had the number last season, and I really fancy Arsenal at home. It's a good side, no doubt about it. It'll be a really difficult game. I think they'll sort that shit out this season. I think they'll get a centre forward, and it'll be a much more dangerous prospect. But Newcastle could definitely turn them over as Jim's pot. We've done it before, and we could do it again. So going into October, the 4th of October, Nottingham Forest at home again. Good fixture. I'm not sure how Forest are going to weigh up next season with European football as well. Can they add to the squad? Will they lose players? I don't know. But that's always a decent game. We've got a good record against Forest, so hopefully we can continue that. Then we've got Brighton away on the 18th. I hate that game as well. It's another shit game for us. We might even have 2 Brighton players, judging by the transfer links at that particular point. But that's a tough game. We finish October at home to Fulham, which has been a tricky fixture over the years on the 25th. I think that's a really tough game for us, even at home. But you'd like to think Newcastle get the business done. Then in November, West Ham away, Brentford away after that on the 1st and 8th of November. So London, baby, both times there. Then we've got Manchester City at home on the 22nd. The first time we're playing City. Not too bad back in November. City, I think, are going to be a different beast this season. I fancy them to get right back into that title picture. Then you've got Everton away on the 29th. It's a brand new stadium as well for Everton as well. I don't know what it's called. I can't remember what it's called. Tesco Park. I don't know. Sorry, Everton fans. I couldn't remember the name of it. But that is a good stadium. They might add as well quality in the summer. Everton could be a different beast altogether next season as well. So I'm not getting too positive about that one, to be honest with you. Going into December, Christmas time, these are the big fixtures. So the 3rd of December, one of our favourite fixtures, Tottenham Hotspur at St James's Park on the 3rd. Great record against them. New manager, though, Thomas Frank, could be a very different prospect altogether. Then we've got Burnley at home on the 6th. That's, again, another one of the promoted sides. Scotty Parker, ex-Newcastle United midfielder. If you're still there by then, you don't know these promoted teams. But, I don't know what Burnley are going to do. We might even have their goalkeeper in between the sticks for us, if you believe the talk as well. And then the big one, the one that you're all waiting for, the 13th of December, the first Thailand Weir derby away at the Stadium of Shite. Now, the reason that this concerns me a little bit is because this will be in the midst of Champions League as well. So match day 6, I think it is, on the Champions League is the 9th and 10th of December. So we play the Mackhams on the 13th. Obviously, we've got Burnley on the 6th. So we've got plenty of recovery time then, but we're only playing the Mackhams 3 days after we've been in Champions League action. And this is where the squad depth will definitely come under the microscope and under the test for Newcastle. This is why it's important to get the squad built up over the summer to handle exactly these types of games. Now, we don't know what Sunderland are going to be like in the Premier League. We don't know yet. They weren't great in the playoffs. If they don't add enough quality into that team, I think they could be in trouble in the Premier League. That's not me with me black my blinkers on. That's fact. My football eyes do not lie. Sheffield United played them off the park and should have won that game, really, but they didn't. Sunderland won it in fair play to them. They're back in the big time. But when you're in the Premier League, if you don't invest, you get found out and you get done. Look at Southampton. Look at Burnley before that when Company was in charge. It could be a real tough season for the Mackhams if they don't add quality. They've already lost Bellingham to Borussia Dortmund. Maybe they invest that money. Maybe they buy a couple of good experienced Premier League players, because I think that's what promoted teams need, experienced Premier League players to keep them in the division. But this would be a huge game for Sunderland and for Newcastle as well. Tiny mid derbies, we've been starved of them in the Premier League. I'm old enough to remember the horrible derbies when we couldn't beat these wankers, but we're in total 2 different footballing stratospheres right now. We'll have Champions League in the lead up to that game. They're just concentrating more on the Premier League and staying in the Premier League. So it's important not to get caught up in all of the noise. We are a bigger team than them. We are a better team than them. They'll want to beat us. They'll want to scalp us. That's the first fixture the Mackhams are looking for. So we need to make sure we turn up for that. But we need the squad depth to handle that game and handle it well. Now, after that, we've got Chelsea at home on the 20th again, which could be a really interesting fixture around about Christmas time. And then the 27th, Manchester United away. So 2 tough games back to back. I think Manchester United will be a much stronger Manchester United this season than they were last season. It couldn't be much worse if they were. They'd be relegated. So I think there will be a strong outfit. They've already signed quite well in terms of Cunha. Well, they added Burmo to that. Well, they added centre forward to that. I think there'll be a different prospect this season, Manchester United, especially with no European football to fatigue them. And if they don't, there's no excuse for Amorim. He's got to get the bin. But I think Manchester United will be a tougher game, certainly this season, than it will be last season. Then we've got Burnley away to close off December. Going into January, we've got Crystal Palace at home. Again, a good fixture for us over the years. We've got Leeds at home. We've got Wolverhampton Wanderers away. 3 good games there, 3 solid games on the 3rd, 7th and 17th of January, respectively. So they're good fixtures for Newcastle. And we'll be looking at them to try and get the points. Then we've got Aston Villa at home, and we finish off January with Liverpool away. So they're 2 tough games to finish off with. Again, a good record against Villa at home. Liverpool away is always a tough game for that one. Going into February, we've then got Brentford and Spurs. We've got Brentford at home on the 7th, Spurs away on the 11th, and City away on the 21st, and Everton at home on the 20th. That's not an easy month either. There's some tricky fixtures in that month. Definitely Spurs away and City away. Again, Spurs will be a different animal under Frank as well in the way last season. So they're going to be tough fixtures. But again, depending on what we do with the squad, you've got to back us to try to get those results. We've done it before. We can do it again, but we need quality and we need bodies in the squad. Into March, we've got Manchester United at home on the 4th of March. I love that fixture, especially over recent years. We have battered these fuckers, and rightly so, and I hope we do it again. I love beating Manchester United, home or away, but especially home. There's just something special about that. Then we've got Chelsea away on the 14th of March. The Mackems at home, the home game at St James's Park on the 21st of March. Then into April, the 11th of April, we're away to Crystal Palace. Then home to Bournemouth on the 18th. And then away to Arsenal on the 25th. Again, there just seems to be no easy fixtures in the Premier League, does there? Finishing off the last month in May, we've got Brighton Hove Albion on the 2nd. We've got Forest away on the 9th. West Ham at home on the 17th, and then we finish at Fulham away. So May is actually not a bad month for us, in all fairness, if we are playing, potentially for Champions League positions and qualifications by the end of that. They're not bad fixtures to finish the season with. But in terms of the Champions League itself, so match day 1 is September 16th to 18th. So going back to those fixtures there, again, we've got Bournemouth away in amongst that one. So it's maybe not too bad in terms of that game. It's a tough game for us. But again, if we can rotate the squad, if we've got the squad to rotate, it might be good. So then you got match day 2 is September 30th. So again, on that one, you're kind of 3 days after the Arsenal game. And then, 2 or 3 days before the Forest game. So it's a little bit tough. That, again, looking at that one, match day 3, October 21st and 22nd. Looking at that one again, that's not too bad the way that falls, unless fixtures get moved for TV, which they probably will. We've got kind of Brighton and Fulham in amongst that. Brighton away and then Fulham at home. Then we've got match day 4, November 4th and 5th. Again, that is 3 days away from the Brentford away game and 2 days away from, or 3 days away from West Ham away. Again, so they're not too bad fixtures. But then we get into match day 5, November 25th and November 26th. This is where it gets a little bit tricky there. So looking at that, you've got 4 days away from playing Manchester City, but they've got Champions League as well, and then Everton in between that as well. So that's a tough one. Match day 6, December 9th and 10th. Looking at that one there, they're the tough ones. The Mackems are on the cards on that one. So this would be interesting to see what we do. If our squad is strong enough to maybe change things around and maybe bring in a Lewis Miley or somebody else like that instead of a Tonali or a Bruno to rest their legs, then we'll do that. Or, do we play Trippier in the Champions League and Tino in the league or whatever? This is where Eddie Howe has to manage the squad better than he has done previously. Don't burn players out. Don't overplay them because it could cause a lot of trouble. Match day 7th in the Champions League is the 20th to the 21st of January. Again, looking at that. So in and amongst there, we've got Wolves, we've got Villa at home in that fixture. And then match day 8 is January 28th, which is, let's have a little look. So yes, so Liverpool are on the cards on that one as well. So the good thing about that one is that a lot of the teams that we're playing in amongst that kind of fixture pile up will have Champions League as well. The unknown factor here and the worrying factor here is changing for TV. If Sky or TNT change these fixtures for TV and knock them 1 day or two alongside either or, it could really give us some trouble in terms of squad recovery from Champions League to Premier League. But this is why it's really important Newcastle do strengthen that squad in the summer. I know a lot of people saying, calm down, don't worry about it, which is fine. I get what you're saying. But, there's a couple of mitigating factors here, I think, in terms of the squad enhancement. The PSR deadline, the 30th of June, is definitely one of them. I think we are trying to take advantage of clubs like Villa, for example, struggling with PSR deadlines at the 30th of June and taking players off them like we had Ali Anderson and Minter taken off of us. I think Newcastle are doing that, so I don't really see any real movement until the end of this month. Maybe James Trafford comes in, I don't know, potentially, but that could be the only one I see. Everything after that, I think, is going to be after the end of June into July. But obviously, we'll be back pre-season. I think, was it early July? Then we've got to play Celtic as well, the end of July. So anyhow, I want a couple of bodies in before we come back for pre-season. But we've got all that to talk about in the coming weeks. I want to just jump on quickly, give you my view on the fixtures. Those first 6 games are tough. Villa, Liverpool, Arsenal in the first 6 fixtures. But you got to play them sometime. Get them out of the way early doors. As I say, the 2 home games against Liverpool and Arsenal give me a little bit more confidence because we are strongest in James's Park. We can beat these big teams at St James's Park. So I'm not so worried about that. The derbies, A little bit concerned about the derbies, I've got to be honest with you, because they fall in amongst kind of the fixture pileup of the Champions League, and we don't really want to be having a burnt out, knackered squad going to Sunderland and getting turned over by them, because we'll never hear the fucking end of it. But the squad's strong enough. I think some of the youth team players get new contracts. Maybe that's an early indicator. Eddie Howe might use a bit more youth this season as well in the Premier League, potentially. The likes of Sean Neve and Sanasu and even young Sahar as well. Maybe they'll be in amongst the first team. You never know. They might play in some of those fixtures against the likes of the promoted teams. You just don't know. Depends how well they do in training. But we're going to do a video on that pretty soon in the next week or so. One of the live shows on Monday night, talk about who could break through. So make sure you stay tuned for that, guys. And like and subscribe. Keep it evermore. We'll be back with some more transfer stories, some more transfer news, hopefully when we do sign some players. But let us know in the comments below what you think about the fixtures. What month worries you the most on that one? Feel free to pause it, look at it, then comment if you want to. And Mark's pulled up the slide there as I've been talking. But the fixtures are out. The Champions League doesn't get drawn until the end of August. We'll be on that as well once we know who we're playing in that competition as well. But it's exciting to look forward to. But we need to see some more bodies in the squad to manage the rigorous season that lies ahead. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a belt wherever you are, and we'll see you later. Cheers.
Heroes celebrate. They have done it.